My father sent my girlfriend his nude photo and said her photo turned him on, and she did the same by sending her videos and audios. A month later, I caught them hooking up on his boat during family movie night. My girlfriend and I had been together for almost 4 years before everything in my life changed. Looking back now, it still feels strange how something as random as a haunted house attraction on Halloween ended up shaping my future. We met through mutual friends. A couple we both knew invited us to this huge Halloween event with haunted trails, actors in costumes, and an outdoor beer garden. Everyone else in the group had brought their partner, so we naturally ended up together most of the night. At first it was small talk while we waited in line, but once we got to the beer garden, we separated from the group completely. We sat under orange string lights, drinking cheap beer, and talking for hours while people in costumes wandered around us. What stood out to me was how easy she was to talk to. Usually I kept people at a distance, but with her, I didn't feel like I had to hide parts of myself. By the end of the night, neither of us wanted to leave. We exchanged numbers, and not long after that we officially started dating. A year and a half later, she moved into my apartment. Living together only brought us closer. She balanced me out in a lot of ways. I overthought everything and kept my emotions bottled up, while she was calm and patient. She always seemed to know when something was bothering me, even when I tried to hide it. One thing that had always bothered me was the fact that I never knew my biological father. My mother raised me alone for the first 12 years of my life before meeting my stepdad and having more children. Whenever I asked about my real father growing up, she refused to tell me anything beyond the basics. According to her, they had dated when she became pregnant with me. She came from a deeply Catholic family, so abortion was never an option for her. He didn't want a child and tried to pressure her into ending the pregnancy, so she cut him out of her life and raised me alone. That was all she would ever say. Eventually I stopped asking because I realized she was never going to tell me who he was. I convinced myself it didn't matter anymore. Then one of my cousins got cancer and passed away. Watching someone close to me die made me start thinking about family medical history and all the things I didn't know about myself. One night, I admitted that to my girlfriend while we sat together on the couch. "I don't even know what diseases run in my family," I told her. She looked at me quietly and said, "Then maybe it's time you find out." At first I resisted because I was certain my mom would refuse again, but my girlfriend kept encouraging me. Eventually, we went to my mother together. I explained that after losing my cousin, I needed to know my medical history. I also told her it would matter someday if I wanted kids of my own. That was what finally changed her mind. She left the room for a while, then came back with his name written on a piece of paper. Seeing it felt surreal. For almost my entire life, my father had been a mystery. Suddenly, he was a real person. It still took me another week before I worked up the nerve to contact him. I expected rejection, but instead he agreed to meet me almost immediately. We met for lunch at a small restaurant, and my girlfriend came with me because I didn't think I could handle it alone. The moment I saw him walk through the door, it hit me hard how much I looked like him. Same eyes, same build, same posture. It felt like I was looking at an older version of myself. The lunch was emotional and awkward at first, but eventually we started talking more naturally. He admitted he had been young and scared when my mother got pregnant. He said he wasn't ready to be a father and regretted how everything happened. Afterward, I sat in the car with my girlfriend and completely broke down. Years of questions and emotions hit me all at once, and she stayed there holding my hand while I tried to process everything. About a week later, my biological father reached out again. He asked if I wanted to see him another time, because meeting me had affected him deeply too. He said he wanted a chance to get to know me if I was willing. I was hesitant, but my girlfriend encouraged me to try. The second time we met, he invited us fishing on his boat. The day turned out surprisingly normal. We drank a few beers, talked for hours, and spent most of the afternoon out on the water. He told me about his life, his wife, and his 3 younger children, my half-siblings. Hearing that I had siblings was strange enough on its own. He admitted again that he had panicked when my mother became pregnant and simply wasn't mature enough to handle becoming a father. For the first time in my life, I stopped seeing him as some distant villain from my childhood and started seeing him as a flawed human being. Before we left that day, he mentioned wanting me to meet the rest of his family someday. I wanted that too, even though part of me was nervous about it. As we stood near the dock getting ready to leave, he and my girlfriend exchanged phone numbers so they could coordinate schedules and plan a time for everyone to meet. A few weeks passed after the fishing trip, and although I hadn't seen my biological father again in person, we stayed in touch through occasional texts. The whole situation still felt surreal to me. For almost my entire life, He had been a mystery, and now suddenly he was becoming part of my routine. Every message from him carried this strange emotional weight I couldn't explain. My girlfriend seemed excited about everything moving forward. She told me my father and his family were planning a dinner at the end of the month, so everyone could spend more time together. Apparently, my half-siblings were curious about me, and my stepmother wanted to meet me properly. Part of me felt nervous, but another part felt hopeful. For the first time in my life, I thought maybe I finally had a chance to understand where I came from. Then everything fell apart. I work construction, and at the time I was helping with a project high above the ground. One afternoon, while carrying equipment nearly 50 feet in the air, my phone slipped from my pocket and smashed face first into the concrete below. The screen was completely destroyed. I replaced it later that day and transferred everything over to the new phone. Most of my contacts moved automatically with a SIM card, but a few numbers were missing because they had only been saved locally. One of those missing contacts was my biological father. When I got home, my girlfriend was asleep on the couch. Since she had been organizing dinner plans with him, I figured I'd grab his number from her phone. We knew each other's passwords and used each other's phones all the time, so it didn't feel unusual. I unlocked her phone and opened her contacts. The moment I clicked on my father's name, I noticed the call history. There were dozens of calls between them. Some lasted nearly an hour. My stomach tightened instantly. She had never mentioned speaking to him privately, and suddenly something felt very wrong. At first I tried convincing myself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe they were coordinating plans. Maybe he had questions about me. But curiosity got the better of me. I walked into the other room and opened their messages. The conversation started the same night we all went fishing together. A few hours after they exchanged numbers, my father texted her saying I was lucky to have someone like her. At first it seemed harmless. She thanked him and said she was lucky to have me too. But then the tone changed. His compliments became more personal and flirtatious. He told her she was beautiful. Then he joked that if I didn't treat her right, maybe he should step in. I remember staring at the screen trying to process what I was reading. My biological father, the man I had waited my entire life to meet, was flirting with my girlfriend behind my back only days after meeting both of us. What hurt even more was that she flirted back. She told him she might let him step in if necessary. After that, the messages escalated quickly. My father sent my girlfriend a picture of himself. It was a nude photo where he told her that a new picture she uploaded to Instagram had really turned him on. My girlfriend told him that she was glad it did, then send him some other pictures of herself. There were videos and audio recordings and dozens of pictures between them. And then compliments turned into fantasies, and jokes became adult intimacy suggestions. Then I found the pictures and videos they had exchanged. One message from him talked about sneaking away together during the upcoming family dinner while everyone else stayed inside watching movies, including me. I sat there in silence holding her phone while my whole body shook with anger. The betrayal hit me from every direction at once. My father had ignored my existence for most of my life, and the moment I finally gave him a chance to know me, he betrayed me again by going after my girlfriend. And my girlfriend, someone who knew how emotional and important this entire situation was for me, went along with it willingly. I felt humiliated, disposable, like neither of them saw me as a real person at all. Part of me wanted to wake her up immediately and confront her. Another part wanted to drive to my father's house and lose control completely. Instead, I quietly put her phone back exactly where I found it and pretended I had seen nothing. The dinner was still a week away, and somewhere in the middle of all my anger, another feeling started growing. I wanted them exposed. I wanted them to feel the same humiliation and betrayal they had caused me. So for the next week, I acted normal. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Every time my girlfriend smiled at me or kissed me, all I could think about were those messages. Every time my father texted me casually asking how work was going, I had to fight the urge to throw my phone across the room. At night, I barely slept. I would lie awake staring at the ceiling while my girlfriend slept beside me, wondering how long she had been lying to me. Every small interaction between us started feeling fake. Every "I love you" sounded rehearsed. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out if there had been signs I missed. By the time dinner finally arrived, I felt emotionally numb. I somehow managed to sit through the meal without losing control. My father acted perfectly normal across the table from me while my girlfriend sat beside me pretending nothing had happened. Watching them interact casually in front of everyone made me sick. What made things even harder was meeting my stepmother properly. She was genuinely kind to me. She welcomed me warmly into their home and seemed sincerely happy that I had finally connected with my father. The entire time I talked to her, all I could think about was the fact that her husband was secretly planning to betray her with my girlfriend. Honestly, judging by how quickly he crossed boundaries with someone he had just met, I doubted this was the first time he had done something like this. My half-siblings were excited too. They kept asking me questions about my life and wanted to know if I would come around more often. That made everything hurt even worse because part of me had actually started imagining what it would feel like to finally have a bigger family. Instead, I was sitting there surrounded by lies. After dinner, everyone moved into the living room and put on a movie. The night of the dinner felt tense from the moment we arrived, though nobody besides me knew why. I spent the evening pretending everything was normal while my biological father sat across from me acting like a family man and my girlfriend sat beside me pretending she hadn't been secretly planning to sleep with him. The hardest part was my stepmother. She was genuinely kind to me all night. She asked about my childhood, told me stories about my father, and kept saying how happy she was that the family was finally coming together. Every time she smiled at me, I felt guilty because I already knew what was happening behind her back. After dinner, everyone moved into the living room to watch a movie. The kids piled onto the couch with blankets, while my stepmother dimmed the lights. For a few minutes, things almost felt normal. Then my father stood up and stretched. He casually said he wasn't interested in the movie and needed to finish a few things on the boat before the night was over. Nobody questioned him. About 15 minutes later, my girlfriend looked at her phone and suddenly stood up. "I just got a call," she said quickly before leaving the room. I never heard her phone ring. I sat there pretending not to notice while my heart pounded in my chest. After a few minutes, I turned to my stepmother and said, "It's kind of weird she's been gone this long." The kids had already fallen asleep, which honestly relieved me because I knew things were about to explode. My stepmother paused the movie and asked if everything was okay. "I'm gonna check on her," I said. I stepped outside first, even though I already knew my girlfriend wouldn't be there. Then I came back and told my stepmother I couldn't find her. Immediately, she got concerned and stood up to help me search. Ironically, she was the one who suggested we ask my father if he had seen her. The two of us walked toward the dock together. Even though I already suspected what we would find, part of me still hoped I was wrong. The second we opened the lower cabin door to the boat, we heard obvious noises of them being intimate coming from the bedroom downstairs. My stepmother froze beside me. Then she yelled my father's name. Everything instantly went silent. A few seconds later, my father stepped out of the bedroom trying to act annoyed, like we were interrupting him while he worked. "What do you need?" he asked casually. My stepmother asked what he was doing down there. Without hesitation, he claimed he had been rearranging furniture. Even then, part of me almost laughed at how pathetic the lie was. Asked directly if my girlfriend was down there with him, and he immediately denied it. That was enough for me to do my part, and the anger that was building on me. I shoved past him and opened the bedroom door. There she was, standing beside the bed trying to quietly pull her clothes back on while avoiding eye contact with me, trying to make the most innocent face she ever could. The second she looked at me, everything exploded like it was bound to happen. All four of us started yelling over each other inside that cramped cabin. My stepmother screamed at my father while he threw out excuses that made no sense. I mean, who does that? My girlfriend tried explaining herself why she did, or whatever she did, while I stood there feeling humiliated and betrayed. Even though I had suspected this would happen and practically led us there on purpose, actually seeing it still crushed me whole, as if life got flipped 180 degrees. I remember yelling at my father, asking how he could betray me again after I had finally given him a chance to be part of my life. Then I turned to my girlfriend and asked how she could look me in the eyes every day while secretly planning this behind my back. Neither of them had a real answer, as if lust took over them completely. Eventually, my stepmother told my father to get out of the house. Thankfully, the kids had stayed asleep and didn't witness any of it. As for me, I couldn't stand being around my girlfriend anymore. I went back to our apartment just long enough to pack a bag before leaving. A few weeks later, I moved out completely. Then, things somehow got even worse while they were supposed to get worse after what my father and girlfriend did. After my stepmother kicked my father out, he needed somewhere to stay. My ex-girlfriend invited him to move into the apartment I had just left. The two of them officially started seeing each other after that. A couple of months later, I heard through mutual friends that she was pregnant. What made it even more twisted was learning how my father reacted. Apparently, he told her he already had children and wanted to reconcile with his wife, and another baby would ruin that. Then, he started pressuring her to get an abortion, the exact same thing he had done to my mother decades earlier. It felt like history repeating itself. My father hadn't changed at all. He was still the same selfish man who ran from responsibility whenever it became inconvenient. But this time, my ex-girlfriend refused. As soon as I found out what was happening, I contacted my stepmother and warned her that he would probably try lying about the pregnancy. She thanked me for telling her and assured me she wanted nothing more to do with him. Most of our mutual friends were horrified too. A lot of them stopped talking to my ex because they couldn't understand how she could betray me with someone tied to such a painful part of my life. In the end, she had the baby, but my father wasn't involved. His marriage collapsed completely, and the divorce cost him heavily. Between alimony and child support to his ex-wife, he was already struggling financially. Then a DNA test confirmed he was also the father of my ex-girlfriend's child, meaning he owed even more child support. The man spent his entire life running from responsibility, and eventually it all caught up to him. As for me, I cut him out of my life completely. After everything that happened, I realized something important. Sometimes the people you spend your whole life searching for are exactly the people you are better off never finding at all.